Drifting. We all know it one way or another. Whether you watch Fast and Furious growing up or saw any car movie in general. So why not? Drifting in America, 1950 to 2010. Let's go. So it all started in 1950 with moonshiners and dirt track racers would do a controlled slide around a corner or hold dirt over to get higher speeds through the corner. This is the beginning of the oversteer culture in America. 1960s to 1970s marks the beginning of the Gymkhana, or known as the rally era. Drivers would do controlled 360s and precision sliding techniques to stun a crowd. This also marks the beginning of the power oversteer, known as the power slide, as muscle cars were getting more and more powerful and more tuned. The 1980s marks the beginning of the early sliding. Starting in parking lots, industrial parks, it also introduced the Scandinavian flick, an early drifting technique where drivers flick into a corner on ice and maintain a controlled slide all the way through to maximize speed going through the icy corner. 1990s, this is where things start really ramping up. As you might see behind me, I am now sat on a drift car, and guess where it's from? The 90s. A 1999 Ford Mustang GT that we have transformed into a drift spec drift car, ready for the track next season. So, if you go to Langley Speedway, watch for this car because you might see it sliding. The 1990s marks the beginning of real drifting in the United States, as drivers would sneak into abandoned industrial parks and secluded parking lots and drift. It marks the beginning of the tuner scene, better known as the JDM scene, Japanese domestic market, Japanese cars. It also introduced the popular anime Initial D, a drift show that influenced the JDM drift movement in the United States. Most of the early drifting also started in Northern California, also better known as the drift place of the United States. Now in the 2000s, when the United States started getting proper established drift events, one very well-known drift event, or some may even say famous, is Formula Drift. In the summer of 2003, Jim Law and Ryan Sage organized an expedition meet for the Japanese D1 Grand Prix at Irwindale Speedway in Southern California. But just 3 months later, at the Specialty Equipment Market Show, they announced the creation of Formula Drift, a championship series in the US today. More than 60 drivers, some of whom started in international drift competitions, compete in Formula D races at 9 tracks in the US. In the earlier 2001, there was a drift association made called US Drift, which is a local drift association to the 757. They mainly organize events and host them at Richmond Raceway and Virginia Motorsports Park. As the drift scene started growing bigger and bigger, more events and associations started popping up, such as Formula Drift Pro-Am, a drift association for grassroots drivers trying to make it up to the big leagues, such as Formula Drift. As it got bigger, cars advanced too, with pro cars making such as 1,000 wheel horsepower, and also the introduction of modern equipment such as standalone link ECUs and hydro e-brakes. And as everything grew, so did the media coverage. The drifting scene became common knowledge and a true awesome motorsport. As drifting started getting more and more popular in the United States in the 2010s, very famous companies such as Red Bull and Monster adopted the sport, and they have helped spread drifting to people around the globe.
On the driver's hat, which is a good thing. So realistically, if you're a passenger, you make sure you're wearing closed-toed shoes, long pants, and some sort of sleeve, a short sleeve. That's why I like the snag game thing. Just get the
And if you were curious, that was drifting in at least 2 minutes. Thank you. And I'm done.